Yo, what's going on, guys? So I wanted to make today's video a little bit more creative, a little bit more theory crafty with a touch of realism mixed in, because in Marvel Rivals the possibilities are endless when it comes to what characters they could add into the game. I want to focus on who would be fun to see added into the game, but instead of just listing a bunch of characters, I want to do a more unique look into which characters actually make sense based on the roster we already have and create a mock draft. Plus, I also go into what ultimates I think would be cool to see on these characters and some cosmetics that would be fire as well. But enough teasing. If you like this type of content, leave a like on the video, comment who you think will be the best character in each role, and subscribe to stay up to date for more Marvel Rivals content. But without further ado, I present to you the Marvel Rivals First Class Draft. Before we get to the draft, we gotta do some groundwork first to see what kind of character release schedule we could see in the future in order to determine what sort of characters could be added. To start us off, we already know that the characters in the initial roster are associated with the biggest teams in the Marvel Universe, so first, I wanted to categorize all the characters on the roster based on their respective affiliations for clarity's sake. Secondly, in order to create an in-depth wish list, I needed a baseline in terms of how many characters I can realistically see coming into the game. And thirdly, going off that baseline, see what characters per role, or CPR, we could see come to the game. To begin in a hypothetical world for this imaginary Marvel Rivals draft, let's say the game lasts for 6 years, which was how long Overwatch 1 lasted for. The reason I'm using Overwatch 1 and not 2 is because it was the first game and Marvel Rivals is a brand new title, the first of its name, and also there isn't a type of game to compare Marvel Rivals to besides Overwatch, because of its uniqueness, gameplay design, and overall aesthetic. Overwatch 1 started with 21 heroes, and by the end of its life cycle there were 32 heroes, making that 11 characters added over 6 years. In terms of the frequency of new characters added to Overwatch 1, they released one about every 4 months, which feels like a long time between characters since that means there's 3 new characters per year, not including the release year. And from what we know, there isn't even an official release date yet for Marvel Rivals, so we have to take that into consideration when determining how many characters we could expect. If hypothetically NetEase decides to follow a similar formula, one downside I could see with that type of release schedule is that the meta could stagnate and players lose interest in the game, which would be detrimental to the player base and NetEase as a whole. But I can see people being okay with it if there are really good quality content drops, such as more maps, interesting game modes, exciting limited time events, etc. in between new characters. I think it'll really just come down to what sort of release schedule NetEase will be on and how often we get new content, but remember, this is just my idea of how we could see more characters be introduced into the game. So if you feel differently about what route they could take, comment down below your ideas. Now let's move on to the idea of breaking down characters per role, or CPR. As of right now, we know that there are 18 confirmed characters plus Dr. Doom, who hasn't been seen yet but was in the official release regarding the storyline of Marvel Rivals, so I'll include him for that reason. Once more characters are announced officially, this number can be adjusted obviously, but there's been rumors of Captain America, Black Widow, and Moon Knight coming as well, but since there's no official word on them yet, I won't be including them in this draft. Now, from the leaked images of the menu and also the Steam description, we know that NetEase will be doing a seasonal release system, so the number of characters could fluctuate if they decide to release more than one character per season. What would be interesting to see is if they do something similar to Marvel Snap, in which they have themed seasons based on events happening in the MCU, and if there isn't anything happening there, then they use themes centered around certain characters or storylines from the comics. Now, in terms of CPR, in the original 21 heroes of Overwatch, there were 13 DPS, 5 tanks, and 3 support heroes, which, from what we know right now, is similar to the CPR that Marvel Rivals has, which has 9 DPS, 5 tanks, and 4 support characters. And for the sake of this video, I'll put Dr. Doom in as the 6th tank because I think that's where he'll land, but he could just as well be DPS. But that got me thinking that if I was to do a realistic wish list, then I'd have to think like a developer, and that led me to my next question, which is how many per role do we want to have, say after that hypothetical 6-year mark? Well, let's look back again to Overwatch and see how many heroes were added per role post-launch. They added 3 DPS, 4 tanks, and 4 support, totaling to 16 DPS, 9 tanks, and 7 support to a final roster of 32. However, for the purposes of this draft, we're going to make it an even 12 characters, 4 for each role, because that way every role is added fairly. This means we'd have a total of 13 DPS, 10 tanks, and 8 support to a total of 31 characters. And again, no official word on any of those rumored additions or what roles they could be, but once they do, that number could easily cross 35 characters, or if they're really ambitious, over 40, which will obviously change the amount of CPR. So now that we've done the math on how many characters per role we could see in this hypothetical scenario, let's finally move on to the fun part and draft our future lineup. So how does this draft work, you ask? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I had categorized the characters that we know of into their respective affiliations, and as of now we have heroes and villains representing the Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four through Doctor Doom, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Spider Family, and our standalones Luna Snow and Punisher. Now I know some of these characters like Punisher have overlap with a lot of other teams and affiliations through subgroups in the comics, but just to keep everything organized in this, I chose to put the characters with the major groups that they are most known for, or to just be standalones until there are enough new members to create a new team where those standalones could belong to. Based on that, and staying in line with using Overwatch as our template, each pick is based on the rules as they were released chronologically in Overwatch's lifecycle, and each pick will be associated with the corresponding team that is choosing them, and also what makes sense to that role instead of trying to fit characters into roles that don't make sense, i.e. making the Thing a support role. This will also be a snake draft where the first team that picks in the first round will get last pick in the second round, and vice versa for the team that went last in the first round. Each team also gets 2 picks, and the standalone category will be reserved as a type of free agent character who can belong to any affiliation, hero, or villain based. For each character, I'll also create an ultimate I think fits the character, as well as some cosmetics that it would be awesome to see. Now for the moment of truth, starting with our first pick in 2024's Marvel Rivals First Class Draft, the Avengers select Nick Fury. As the veteran leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury continues his legacy as one of the greatest super spies in the world. Nick Fury's ultimate, I Still Believe in Heroes, can revive any fallen allies immediately if there's a cooldown on respawns, and will temporarily grant revived teammates health shields through helicarrier drops. With the second pick in the 2024 Marvel Rivals First Class Draft, the Fantastic Four select Human Torch. Smile on his face, neither Johnny Storm's love of adventure nor his love for his family can ever be extinguished. Human Torch's ultimate, Nova Burst, charges up and releases intense omnidirectional heat waves that burn and incinerate those standing in the radius. The longer you can hold the charge, the more damage and the larger the radius becomes. With the third pick in the 2024 Marvel Rivals First Class Draft, the Guardians of the Galaxy select Thanos. One of the most powerful beings in existence, the Mad Titan's obsession with the Infinity Stones forces him to bring order to a restless and chaotic universe. Thanos' ultimate, Fine, I'll do it myself, activates the entire Infinity Gauntlet, and he receives a massive temporary health buff and a 25% damage boost. With the fourth pick in the 2024 Marvel Rivals First Class Draft, the Spider Family selects Venom. When this symbiote bonds to its host, the user gains immense brute strength and powers at the cost of an unstable psyche. Venom's ultimate, We Can Do Whatever We Want, targets an opponent and becomes a venomized version of them, taking on their abilities and becoming an even more powerful version of the enemy. With the fifth pick in the 2024 Marvel Rivals First Class Draft, the standalone select Adam Warlock. Created to be a superhuman, Adam Warlock is a unique individual whose cosmic powers allow him to protect the universe. Adam Warlock's ultimate, Avatar of Life, uses the Soul Gem to temporarily give invulnerability to his team for 12 seconds, but at the risk of receiving increased damage to himself. With the sixth pick in the 2024 Marvel Rivals First Class Draft, the X-Men select Rogue. With the ability to absorb memories, powers, and personality traits from others, she's one of the most formidable members of the X-Men. Rogue's ultimate, Mimicry, calculates the collective amount of health of the enemy team and divides it equally amongst her team as a temporary shield. Moving on to the second round, the X-Men will now go again per the rules of the snake draft format. With the seventh pick in the second round, the X-Men select Juggernaut. Imbued with mystical power, Juggernaut is an unstoppable force of invulnerability, enhanced strength, and healing. Juggernaut's ultimate, I'm the Juggernaut, triggers a devastating charge run that can destroy barriers, blockades, and bulldozes anyone standing in his way, dealing massive damage to even the highest health characters. The eighth pick in the second round, the standalone select Taskmaster. A skilled tactician and master assassin, Taskmaster can mimic nearly anyone's fighting skills. Taskmaster's ultimate, Imitation Game, uses his photographic reflexes, and when triggered, he will gain one ability from each opponent that he can see on the battlefield that will replace each of his own abilities until all slots are filled for that duration. With the ninth pick in the second round, the Spider Family selects Mysterio. Using his mind-altering illusions and effects to disrupt Spider-Man, Quentin Beck is more than just a Hollywood outcast. Mysterio's ultimate, Master of Illusions, Ultimations detonates a giant cloud of smoke to obscure enemy vision and camouflages his teammates so they can retreat safely or reposition to attack opponents. With the 10th pick in the second round, the Guardians of the Galaxy select Cull Obsidian. As a child of Thanos and member of the Black Order, Cull Obsidian fears no one and won't hesitate to face even the likes of the Incredible Hulk. Cull Obsidian's ultimate, Loyal Servant, when activated, his axe gains a 20% damage boost as it becomes imbued with cosmic energy to destroy his opponents with blows strong enough to obliterate asteroids. With the 11th pick in the second round, the Fantastic Four select Black Bolt. As the king of the Inhumans, Black Bolt remains one of the most powerful individuals in the universe, as so much as a whisper can destroy an entire city. Black Bolt's ultimate, Keeper of the Terrigen Mist, when charged to the max, Black Bolt will let out a sonic scream that completely destroys enemies in its direct path and will knock enemies out of the way if they aren't directly in its cone of travel. However, if it isn't charged all the way, it will just knock all the enemies out of its path, so it's not nearly as devastating. With the 12th pick in the second round, the Avengers select Vision. As one of the most powerful androids on the planet, Vision's perfect computer brain allows him to perform physics-defying feats and grants him unparalleled strength. Vision's ultimate nanite synthezoid allows him to activate his density manipulation so he can shift between a hardened body for 15% damage buff or intangibility, letting him travel into an enemy's body and disrupting their abilities for a short duration. And now for some alternative cosmetics for Nick Fury, Human Torch, Thanos, Venom, Adam Warlock, Rogue, Juggernaut, Taskmaster, Mysterio, Cull Obsidian, Black Bolt, Vision. And with that final pick, this wraps up the 2024 Marvel Rivals First Class Draft. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a ton of fun making it, and I just wanted to say quickly that I appreciate the love of my Marvel Rivals trailer breakdown. When I uploaded it, I think I had about 10 subs, and now I'm at 37, which is amazing, so thank you to everyone so far. I'm newly stepping into the space of content creation, so I really appreciated everyone's feedback and support. It keeps me motivated and makes doing all this the more fun. But enough of that. If you do want to see more future content, don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts on what ultimates you liked or even what individual abilities you would add to the class, and subscribe to stay up to date for more Marvel Rivals content.